What's going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to the Wrestle Report, episode 3 with Phil and Don. I'm Phil.
I'm Don.
We're giving a quick episode today just to get us back on our normal shooting schedule here. Nobody's in a medical facility. Nobody is, sick, so everything's good. Donovan is in a hotel room now, taking a little vacation, but glad you were still able to get this going. Yeah, well-needed vacation after last week. Yeah,
yes,
so everything's good. So we did do an episode on Monday to counteract the one that we missed, and Raw was going on while we were recording, and I assumed Raw was kind of over. I forget the last thing we talked about. Might have been Asuka winning, right, to go to SummerSlam.
To beat Sasha, to go against Sasha Banks at
Right. Okay, I thought it was Bayley. But so I assumed that was like the last big news we'd see on Raw, and I just wanted to open with the way Raw ended, because the promo with Flair and Randy Orton was probably the greatest thing I've seen on WWE TV on a main show in easily of 2020, rivaled only by when Heath Slater came back to confront Drew McIntyre. Those are the only two things, but this probably beats it. Ric Flair gives this great – I don't care how old he gets. I think he will still cut a great promo, from the grave in hopefully 100 years from now. But his whole, I want you to beat my record, not John Cena. I love you. I helped you build everything up. And, we all knew where it was going. We knew by the end of this, Flair's getting punted, right? But the journey it took to get us there was top-notch. And I might not applaud WWE all the time, but I have to on this one. This was one of the greatest segments I've seen on Raw in a long time, easily this year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. It was great. It was emotional, very emotional. It felt real.
Yes.
Actually, I just recently watched it all over again because I thought it was so good. And I felt bad for Rick because Randy brought up the son thing.
Yeah.
And in the shadows of his daughter and all this stuff, but it was really great, really great.
I mean, we've known for a while that Flair can cry at the drop of a hat, but like you said, this one at least felt real. And I think this was so good that I didn't even mind how they had to stage up the punt. Because obviously Flair probably shouldn't be getting kicked in the head at his age. Totally understandable. No. But the way they did it with the lights, that would have normally bothered me. But everything that happened prior, I'm like, all right, that's how you – I mean, he could have done the low blow and kind of left it there if we needed to. But, the punt is his thing right now, so we had to bring it back. So, that bothered me for a second, but I'm like, I can't let that stop me from loving this whole segment. I don't know how you felt about it.
I loved it just because, like you said, is throughout the night, the lights were flickering all night. So, right. I mean, it kept continuity and stuff, and it saved Rick from taking a big bump. That's a big bump right there.
Oh, yeah, for him, definitely.
Yeah.
I think because they do have the thing with Retribution and the lights flickering. Hey, if it would have just been randomly out of nowhere, I would have been like, what the hell is this? But, yeah, I think because it was, it was well-timed, obviously, but, it at least made sense why, they were able to do what they did. But, yeah, that's really, I guess, SmackDown. I don't even have it on, but SmackDown's on as we're recording now. I don't know what's going on over there, so we won't really mention too much of that. But other big news in the E this week is starting tomorrow, actually. Might be this, actually, whenever I put this out, it might be the same day. Saturday, the WWE Network is going to get a shit ton of more content with independent promotions such as Evolve, Progress, ICW, and WXW. And I'll be honest, I don't know much about WXW, but I've seen at least a handful of things in the other companies. And for people that aren't familiar with them, you're going to see a lot of guys that you've maybe heard of, like Will Ospreay and things like that. And even Drew McIntyre was there when he was still Drew Galloway in his time in between WWE stints. But do you have any, have you seen any matches in any of these companies prior to hopefully this Saturday?
I believe wasn't Velveteen and Orange Cassidy had a match on there?
That sounds like a Progress. Oh,
Progress?
Might be Evolve,
okay.
Yeah. But they work, those two companies in particular, they work pretty hand in hand. So a lot of guys you would see.
Yeah.
I know I liked a lot.
I know Matt Riddle's on there, right?
Yes. Yeah. He was Jeff Cobb. They were a tag team actually in Progress, which is scary to think about. I think Keith Lee might have came from there too, one of those.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was involved for a little stint too.
And Progress has had a little bit of a partnership with WWE, so they're the ones like we knew that was coming for a while, but to get all these other guys in there, I think is great. I'm sure it's giving these companies money that probably need it without running shows. I think they're finally getting it going. But back when like What Culture Pro Wrestling was a thing, if you ever watched any of that, a lot of their guys came from ICW, and a lot of the guys that are in NXT UK are now like Joseph Connors and Wolfgang and guys like that are from ICW. So if you want to see them maybe with the chains off and, you know, a little more of a leash to be themselves, if you've watched the UK and you like these guys but want to see them do more, that would be your chance, obviously, to check them out. So I don't know if I'll deep dive into it right away, but I definitely, you know, one of these days. I hope it's not like they have a lot of the classic, like the Memphis stuff and the Deep South, and they really only put stuff with guys that later went to the WWE as opposed to just everything that they own, because they own the whole library. And I don't know the details of this yet, but I assume they're going to put most of it. It would be a shame if it's just, a Drew Galloway match here and there or a Matt Riddle match here and there. I hope they give us – I doubt they give you it all at once, but at least all the pay-per-views in entirety so that you get to see, like, the best things that these companies have to offer, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to – actually, one last thing on Raw. After the episode that we are filming on Monday, I put out a tweet at Phil Talk Sports, which, of course, covers my normal podcast and this show. And I was wondering how people were feeling about the Raw Underground 2 weeks in. And here are the results of that poll. So I gave you 3 options. It was love it, hate it, and still not sure, because it has only been 2 weeks. I think it was fair to throw that in there. So 27% of people loved it, 55% of people hated it, and 18% were still not sure. So assuming, let's say, half of the not sure group goes to love it and hate it, let's say they split down the middle, it's almost, I'd say, like 60-40 hate it. So there is still a mixed reaction. I don't know if you voted specifically. I had to put myself at still not sure, because the first
that's what I put myself at too.
Because the first episode I didn't like at all, other than I almost called them the Beatdown Clan again. The Hurt Business showed up. That part I was cool with. The rest of it I didn't like. This week it seemed a lot more polished. What's the name of the main dude that they're pushing in this? I don't know if you recall.
I don't remember his name.
Here's the funny thing. I don't know his name, but the guy they had him beating up, Cal Bloom, I know that name because he actually used to play football at UCF. So he was the tight end at UCF, and I knew he was in the Performance Center, and I think that's really the first time he's been shown on television in any capacity. So I was like, oh, shit, there's Cal Bloom. But, no, I think it was polished up a little bit more, and, you know, it could be after the 3rd week they really get this rolling. But I'm still not sure. If you had to lean – I mean, love it is a strong word, but, like, I don't mind it if it's, like, a segment or two on Raw, because Raw's 3 hours. So if this carves up 15 minutes of Raw, like, I'm okay with that, I think. What about you?
I'm the same way. I just don't want it taking too much time out of the rest of the show. I'm okay with how it goes. It goes back and forth from Raw Underground to regular Raw. I would also like to see more main stars in there too as well. Like I like that Shayna Baszler was there on Monday. I like that Riddick Moss was there, even though he's not really a big name, but he's a decent name.
And Ziggler was in it week 1, I think.
Last week. Ziggler was in it last week, and then you had the Hurt Business as well. I also wanted to know, like, what happened to the rest of her? Like, Hurt Business should have been there again.
Yeah, thought they were running Raw.
Yeah. That would have been dope. It would have made sense of what they did last week.
I guess, I mean, I'll give them a little bit of a pass because, like, they did have that big, Shelton faced they had a big storyline on Raw in the arena. So it would have been a little weird for them to be in both places, I guess. You know, I'll give them an out that way. But, so 2 weeks in, let's call it 60-40 hate it. But, I mean, it's close enough that, you know, people could still be swayed. Like, I would be interested in maybe 2-3 more weeks if I put that poll out again. I'm curious, you know, what people might say. So Actually, I keep forgetting. There's one other thing. We talked last episode, the rumor of SummerSlam being from a boat. And I think that's confirmed that that's not the case. But what is happening is it will be in Orlando and not the Performance Center. It's actually going to be at the Amway Center, home of the Orlando Magic, the Orlando Predators, yada, yada. They're setting up a whole new thing. The trucks, really what broke the news was the production trucks have been parked at Amway for the past 3 days. So they're setting up everything going on. And they're doing the virtual fans. It's been described as similar to what the NBA is doing, if you've watched any, bubble basketball. So what do you think of the whole – I think it's great. I mean, if they can work out a deal for as long as this pandemic's going, it's like, hey, once a month, can we run a show from here with no people and do the virtual thing? Because it at least makes the pay-per-view – I wish they'd have thought of this for WrestleMania because it would have made WrestleMania feel a little bit bigger, right? The other shows, Money in the Bank was fine. They worked around that, doing the whole, going through Titan Tower and whatnot. But, no, it will make SummerSlam at least feel different than a Monday Night Raw. And I'm curious how it's going to look, but, I mean, it's going to feel bigger than a normal show, and that alone is a positive, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm excited for SummerSlam, too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good show. I feel like it's going to be a good show.
Yeah. And it will. I think the energy will just be there a little more, and that alone is going to make you feel like the way AEW has had their people around, and they've actually let in friends and family, and they get around 150 people in a faraway section, and you at least hear and it's definitely been a difference. And I think WWE's realized that the people held behind hockey screens might not be the answer. It's better than no people, like what Impact is still doing and stuff. But I think with the virtual fans, if they're hooting and hollering the whole time, I think the energy alone will make the show. Even if the show's completely average, if it's a C show, it's gonna feel like a B show just because we haven't had that level of noise in a while.
Actual noise at that, not just piped in as well.
Right, you'll know it's legit noise.
A lot of stuff's been piped in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So coming up on this, I think we finally got all the WWE news out of the way, which is good because for a while, there wasn't really much to report going on. But they're starting to turn the corner a little bit. There's stuff I want to see, mostly also being NXT 30 coming up. We talked about the Cole, Pat McAfee stuff, obviously, on the second episode. And McAfee will be at NXT this coming Wednesday. So when we do our show on Thursday, we might have a little bit more to mention about that. But the main event for that, we obviously don't know all the North American title participants yet. We'll know that next show. But the main event of Keith Lee and Clayton Cross has been official. And that is really I didn't love the whole fireball thing on NXT. I don't know how you felt about it, but the match itself,
I loved it, man.
I mean, is that what he does? Has he done fireballs prior, or is this a one-time thing?
This was the first time he's brought it out, but okay. I'm hoping it continue going like this because it was pretty cool, pretty spot on. It was Scarlett bringing over the contract, and it was well timed, and it was a good fireball on like Hogan. I
was gonna say I haven't seen. I think I'm scarred of fireballs because of how bad the Hogan one was all those years ago. But I mean, credit to them, they haven't used it since. So it's like at least it was a surprise. But you watch. You're the NXT watcher every week. How do you feel this match is gonna go? I think it'd be a little. They kind of booked themselves into a corner because Keith Lee is the man, and Cross looks like an unstoppable monster. I can't really see them giving the belt. Not that Cross wouldn't be a good champion, but you're not gonna unless Keith Lee's going to Raw on SummerSlam. Unless that going to a main event roster at SummerSlam. I don't see how Keith Lee loses, and that takes a little bit of the shine out of it. If you don't really think the guy can lose his belt. So what do you think?
I think Keith Lee might lose because there's a draft that's coming up in a couple months that Keith Lee might get picked up from Raw or SmackDown. Same as Adam Cole. That's why I think Adam Cole is doing this now, just to keep him relevant. Yeah. I wouldn't mind Keith Lee winning though. I just want to know how they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Because like they booked Karrion Kross to be a monster. Yeah. One way I see it going to happen is Karrion Kross goes too much, goes overboard, and there's a disqualification at the end of the show. But
But a DQ finish at what they're calling the biggest takeover ever.
That would suck, especially for the main event at that too.
Unless, and I'm not saying they should do this, but it is possible that Adam Cole and Pat McAfee is the main event. You know, like, I'm not saying they need to do that, but if they have to do a DQ, you can't have the show end on that. So
DQ, yeah.
You have to do that to get out of it. Then you got to move old Cuzzy into the main event. But we'll see how that goes.
Or they could also do Io Shirai versus Dakota Kai for the main event as well too. That's
true.
Another good match as well.
The vacant North American title, that is main event. So really, it could be anything. But I think your main event of your quote unquote biggest takeover ever, you have to have a winner. So if you know, I'm interested to see how it goes. Obviously, they have something in place. We'll see how that all works out. Jumping over to so we're gonna jump to AEW now. Last week they had their tag team appreciation week coming up, so we had done our top 3 tag teams of all time, and a couple of like Donovan's picks being the 2-man power trip with like Triple H and Stone Cold. And we talked about some other teams that were like kind of oddball pairings. It gave me the idea that for this week's top 3, we're going to do our favorite oddball tag teams of all time. Guys that were together for at least a considerable amount of time that had some level of success. So without further ado, Don, you go first. Our top 3 oddball tag teams.
All right, for the top 3 oddball tag teams I have number 3, I have the Golden Truth.
Okay.
With Goldust and I'm sorry. Not the Golden Truth.
No.
I'm talking about Booker T and Goldust.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised you didn't pick them. No, they were. I definitely thought of them when I was putting my list together. So anyway, continue.
Yeah, I just why I love them so much because their skits they had. The skits was perfect. Booker T and the Goldust played off each other perfectly. That's when I first noticed that Booker T was actually a good. He was funny. He was pretty hilarious. Then number 2, I have Team Hell No, of course. Big Man, Little Man, Daniel Bryan, Little Man, Big Man, Kane.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 1, gotta stick with Triple H and Stone Cold.
Okay, yeah, that's good. One quick thing on Booker T, Goldust, I did want to throw in there. The thing I loved about them, and the reason they were they're right outside even my honorable mentions, but they were together for 2.5, maybe even 3 years. And you got to the point that you thought it was ending, and Goldust was saying, you know, I'm old, I don't got it anymore, I'm holding you back. And it wasn't till they hit that point that they went on one last run and finally won the titles. So this was the slow burn of that whole thing made that such a memorable team, in my opinion. But yeah, they were very close. Golden Truth was funny. Don't get me wrong. As time goes on, I think we will remember them, you know, pre 24/7 era when R-Truth and Goldust had that going on. One of the funniest merch shirts of all time too that they had.
My thing is who's gonna ended up being Goldust to the Hall of Fame? Would it be R-Truth or Booker T? I would think Booker T just because
maybe both. I could see here it is. I got it right here. Write this down. Booker T does it, but R-Truth comes on stage because he thought he was supposed to do it. Boom. Perfect.
$1 million right there. Sign my dog Phil for a writer right now. Come on.
There you go.
WWE tighten up.
Unless they really shock the world and they let Cody do it, but I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think that's
really. Dustin's in AEW too, so it's gonna be a while till that they hit that point. Yeah. So any honorable mentions?
That was a tough part. I had the Rock and Sock connection.
Okay. They were actually in mine too. So if we want, we can just talk about them real quick. So to me, they're in my childhood, in my fandom, they're the original oddball team. When I think they were the first one. So I had them in my honorable mention.
They played off each other perfectly. The Rock is charismatic. He could work with anyone and make him look like $1 million. I feel like that's what made Mick Foley. Yeah. Other than the whole Hell in a Cell spot.
Right.
So when you think of Mankind, you think of the Hell in a Cell, and then the next thing you think of is the Rock and Sock.
Yeah, and some people might remember he did a similar thing with Stone Cold. It was Stone Cold and Mankind. And like it was nowhere near. It was like the way it was done well, but it was nowhere near as entertaining. The Rock and it just went to a whole another level like with them. So yes, to me they're the original oddball team in my lifetime in my fandom. So they're easily an honorable mention. So, any others?
This one is gonna throw you for a loop.
Okay, I'm ready. Throw me.
Vladimir Kozlov and Santino Marella.
Yep, that's a great. I don't know how I didn't think of that. I mean, that's like the closest thing to like a good Italian representation on WWE in years. So like I've been a big Santino guy, and yeah, no, that was great. The whole they even won the belt at some point, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, and it's like it's funny because Santino has the
Cobra.
The Cobra, yes, and like all of it, and like the segments are perfect because they feed off each other. One is serious, one is trying to make him laugh and stuff, and then Santino finally broke him, and he started doing dance competitions and all that crazy stuff. Yeah. It was a great time.
No, that's a great pick, no doubt. All right, so like I said, I'll go ahead and I had Rock and Sock as an honorable mention, so I'm gonna cross them out. All right, so number 3 for me, short-lived, but they did win the titles, so I feel like it still counts. Kofi Kingston and CM Punk, which that seems like when you play universe mode and your game just throws people together. I don't even remember how it got started with them, but like they were the champs and their offense played off each other very well. I think it was one of those like, oh, neither of these guys have anything to do, and they really made the best of a bad situation. And Kofi had a similar thing with Evan Bourne when they were Team Air Boom, which I was kind of between the two, but like I love Punk, and it was like really his only tag team aside from like the Straight Edge Society. So like I definitely had to throw them in there. Number 2, not as long ago, Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, unofficially known as the Brass Ring Club. It was kind of the bar before the bar, and I do believe. Go ahead.
I had them in mind too as well because they actually won the title, and it was, I think that was the last. It was part of those unified champions at one point, the tag team.
Yeah, they had they were one of the first people to have the gold belts, like the penny belts or whatever. But I've always been big on Tyson Kidd, and I think had he not gotten injured, we might have never gotten the bar, and we got a lot of good matches out of the bar, but like they probably would have kept going. And they they didn't really know what their gimmick was. Like Tyson Kidd had the headphones, so Cesaro started wearing headphones, and then they just they wore all this like unnecessary ring gear stuff. They had Natty with them, so it just felt like an old school, with your manager and everything, who's one of the guys' wives, and they had the matching tights when they were champs with the belts on them, and stuff. I think they beat the New Day after they were champs. I think that's how they won them, but it was before New Day was like the force they are now, and of course Cesaro. I think it's proof that Cesaro is a great tag team wrestler. He's been champs now with 3 different partners. But to me, that like the Shinsuke thing still remains to be seen. That we could get some good things out of that. The bar was good for what it was. I'm not huge on Sheamus, but that was the best use of Sheamus, I think, in a long time. But no, Brass Ring Club, Tyson Kidd, Cesaro, the best tag team he's been in, and my number 2. My number 1, we're going to get in the time machine. We're going to go back to 2002, a simpler time. And it was Kane and the Hurricane. And
yo, I saw that too because I did some research and I was looking it up and I was like, dang, that is true.
Yeah.
Hurricane and Kane was together. Yeah, that's right.
So Kane had this really strange. It was when he had the IC title. I think the entire time they were champs, he was also the IC champ. This was leading up to the infamous Katie Vick storyline. So we don't really talk about that anymore, but like it was in that same time frame, and he went 2 or 3 weeks in a row challenging for the tag belts held by the Un-Americans at the time with random partners. I don't remember the other 2, but one of them I remember was Bradshaw back when he was still just Cowboy. He lost with Bradshaw. He lost with Rikishi might have been the other one. I don't remember. And they said, you get one more chance, go find a partner. And of all people, he picked the Hurricane, and it worked out. They're double choke slams. Hurricane doing that, even when he wrestles now, does the choke slam to this day when it makes sense, obviously. But yeah, they're my number one because that is the most random pairing that worked out that I could even think of in my mind.
I feel that. That's a good pick. I like that one.
Yeah. And then my honorable mention, like I said, Rock and Sock, we already talked about. So my only other one was Heath Slater and Rhino. Because that came out in complete left field. No reason for it to ever happen. And I think it really only did because they must truly be good friends backstage.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Even on Impact already, because Rhino's in Impact now, and when he showed up and whatever, like they already did a thing where they're hugging and they're like happy to see each other. So I think they must have a legit friendship, and it's always cool when people get to like act that out on stage. So those are our top three. Tune in next time to see. I don't think we have the one pick for next time. Luckily, we got like a whole week to figure it out. We'll get there. So to close out the show, just a few little AEW nuggets and why this weekend's actually going to be very interesting. Number one on Dynamite, this week, Cody defended the TNT Championship, and for the first time, the goddamn thing was finished. If you guys haven't seen it yet, the TNT Championship belt is finally gold-plated. I think it looks great. I do think it looks a little plain still in the middle. I would have liked if they would have added something, explosion, it's Dynamite, whatever, to the behind the TNT wording. But I didn't think the silver one looked bad knowing that it was incomplete. But now that I see it's gold, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a belt. It gives off, like, IWGP United States Championship vibes to me, being the red belt and the gold and everything. But what did you – I remember I sent you the picture because they leaked it on Twitter about, I don't know, an hour before the show. I guess he was doing promo photos, and they just brought him the other one, and it was a pretty cool little clip if you haven't seen it. But what'd you think of the finally finished TNT Championship?
I don't hate it.
Yeah,
it's decent. It's a decent decent secondary championship.
Yeah. See, that's the thing with me is like I didn't want it to be overly flashy because it's not the main title.
Yeah,
like, it's not the one over my left shoulder here. That's the toy version, obviously, but like, that one deserves to be. It reminds me of that. It reminds me of the NWA television title too, but the red strap and the silver at the time, and now even with gold, it still does remind me of that. But at least it's done because I've been like every week I'm like, oh, is this the week? Is this the week? And then it's finally here. So good on him, and he is defending it on Saturday. Yes, I did say Saturday against Brody Lee, so that's going to be big. So Saturday, as I just said, will be the episode of Dynamite. It will not be head-to-head with NXT this Wednesday due to the NBA playoffs going on. And before any WWE person, I mean, me and you are we like both brands. We just tend to watch one over the other live. People have already, thrown some shade at AEW for having to move their show for something as, like NBA playoffs is like the third biggest TV grab outside of like a Super Bowl in the year. And for people that haven't watched Raw for a long time, Raw used to get bumped for the U.S. Open and the Westminster Dog Show from time to time. So I don't think it's –
I used to hate that.
Yeah. You turn it on and the little dogs running around hoops.
Dogs going around. So this is Raw, huh?
Yeah. So, yeah,
and,
they bumped –
SmackDown was bumped from Fox to FS1 for the World Series.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So it happens. No big deal. It's literally only going to be, I think it's 2 weeks of Saturday shows. I think is how it goes. And this particular week, it's going to line up with TakeOver for an hour. It's going to overlap an hour of it. So if you're smart and you watch it the right way, you're just in for 4 hours of great wrestling on Saturday if you plan it right. But I am interested to see because I should have wrote the numbers down. I don't have them in front of me. I might be able to pull them up. But AEW didn't win the ratings again. Much considered, they were in the 750, back to their normal range, right? NXT was in the 630 range, I think.
I think 635. I think they believe.
Yeah, it was 619 because Rey Mysterio.
619.
Yeah, it made me think of it. So I'm interested to see, unopposed, how many people will watch NXT. I'll watch NXT live. There's no AEW. Why not? But I'm curious to see. If they don't get into the 800s, I'm a little – not that NXT's going anywhere. I'm not saying it like that. But I'd be a little worried if they don't get a huge boost from running unopposed.
True. I heard it's supposed to be a big show next week, too, because you have Finn Balor versus Velveteen Dream for the next part, the second chance part. Then you have Ridge Holland versus Johnny Gargano. I think those are going to be two great matches. And then it's also the go-home show to TakeOver 30. So,
right. And then, as I said earlier, McAfee will be there to confront Adam Cole. So that's another thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, I do have the number 792, so just under 800. 792,100,000 to 619,100,000. So a good, 150 in the gap between them. And I'm curious how AEW might do well on a Saturday. Who knows? But, like, being that it is against TakeOver, that could go either way. I'm interested how the Saturday after goes when they get to run unopposed on a weekend. So it'd be great if NXT, best case scenario, cracks 1 million because they're running unopposed, that'd be great. But I would love to see them at least get in the 800,000 range because they haven't done that in a while. Because, again, I want both to succeed. I might watch AEW over the other one live, but I always check out what happens after. And like you said, it's the lead-in for TakeOver. They kind of lucked out on this. Like, if they care about the ratings, like the lead-in show to our biggest TakeOver ever gets to run unopposed. So don't mess this up, I guess, if I'm WWE,
Yeah.
So I think that's just about everything we had written down today. Donovan, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, other than Velveteen Dream showed up.
That's true.
A lot of people saying it's controversial. He wouldn't be there right now if he was in trouble or anything. So,
similar thing with Sammy Guevara, returning. Yeah. Some people had a problem, some people didn't.
And I'm really excited for that Finn Balor Velveteen Dream match because we were supposed to get that before. Yeah, I'm excited for that match.
Yeah, that's we've talked way before we even started the show. I was never huge on Velveteen, but I think it just depends on the matchup, and this is one that, I want to see what he does with this. Like the Aleister Black thing, which is probably his biggest feud before he left. Wasn't really feeling like that clash of styles, but this, I think this could be good. We got a good week of things are a little scattered. Like I said, AEW on Saturday, NXT running unopposed. Then you got TakeOver and Dynamite in the same 4-hour window. So enjoy some wrestling this week, guys, and we will see you on Thursday. Don, enjoy your vacation, man.
Thank you, brother. You enjoy yourself, man.
Thanks, man. All right, so one last time, guys, at Phil Talk Sports on Twitter, hashtag Wrestling Report Pod. Give us your opinions. If you get some top threes, because we might be out of ideas already, we're going to have to think of something. If you guys want to give us one, top three of anything. And this was a short notice, so lucky for them. We didn't have a Who Booked This shit, but don't worry, it'll be back next episode. So I'm Phil, that's Don, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.